guys, and welcome to the podcast that just recorded the entire first segment before we had to do this again because the fucking mic was unplugged. I'm the Dean of Games, the Dean Slater on all platforms, who has a time frame and cannot afford to be losing this kind of time. And joining me today is nobody because schedules did not work out. And this is Extra Extra, your weekly gaming news podcast covering the news leading up to Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. And if you like us, you can go to patreon.com/thebriefing room. Let's get to some news, which I now have to re-fucking pull up. You know what? No, I'm not even going to pull up. It was Chris Scullion at VGC was one of the stories. And then Nicole Carpenter at Polygon was the other story. And it was talking about EA is laying off 670 people. PlayStation's laying off 900 people. And I was talking about it's hard from all aspects. Obviously, it's the worst is the employees that are affected. It sucks. Fuck Jim Ryan. He went to London Studios, which is now closing down. And, they celebrated his, had like a retirement shindig with him. And he went there knowing full well that they were going to be out of a job less than a week later. But UK laws, they have to declare their intent. But, he knew what the plan was and still accepted this little shindig. So fuck him. He and his cats can go to hell. But as I was saying, I very much condensed all of that information because I can't go back. ROI, return on investment, is king, right? I was talking about PlayStation, the last episode when I was talking about the PlayStation not having IPs. That was what everyone was looking at. That was the news that everyone was upset about. But there was another part of that story where they were expecting record PS5 sales at, I want to say it was 25 million. They got 21 million. Still really good. Only 4 million away from record, the record, right, that they were intending. Not terribly far off, like, in the grand scheme of things. Still very, very good, right? Caused their stocks to... And, you look at Warner Brothers. They're talking about Suicide Squad was disappointing. I don't know how. The writing was on the wall for a long time. You were purposely avoiding giving review copies to specific people because they had done, some not so favorable previews. But also, they were comparing it to Hogwarts Legacy, which, if you didn't hear from other podcasts or if you aren't in the loop, Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game last year, period. It's the first time in, 20 years that a game outsold Call of Duty. You're not getting that kind of performance. And that's not even including Mortal Kombat was in there, right? You're going to compare it. Your plan was for Suicide Squad to make that kind of money? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know. That's crazy to me that they're comparing Suicide Squad to Hogwarts Legacy. But, again, ROI, return on investment. Rocksteady has been working on Suicide Squad for a very long time. A lot of money has been put into labor, into hardware, for, them to make the game. They're not releasing a product in all that time. So, that's just adding up. You've got utilities like electric, water, all that you've got to pay for. You've got the building you got to pay for. there's a lot of expenses there. A lot of money went into Suicide Squad, and they definitely, I they made a lot of that money back. I don't know if they've made all the money back, but they've made a lot of money back, right? But it's not enough because they want the maximum return on investment. Um, and EA was talking about, they laid off a bunch of people. Also, they were talking about, you know, they're going to focus on their owned IPs and sports games and online games, right? Sounds like the EA that got into a lot of trouble before, but who am I saying? Who am I to say? Uh, but that's the thing, right? The having the licensing the Star Wars IP not cheap. I guarantee you, Disney asked for a premium for that, right? They trying to think of how to say this, and I'm gonna go into gamers because I do want to throw out gamers. The companies obviously are at fault because they are making money. I believe they gaming is up 4.5% year on year. Um, so it's not like gaming's still bigger than it's ever been, right? So it's not that gaming it's dying. It's not like there's less customers. There isn't. There's more. But we've gotten to the point where games are so expensive to make that they need them to be a success, right? So new IP, just unless it's a small title that they can knock out with a couple people, that ain't cutting it. Like Pentiment, for example, there was 13 people that worked on Pentiment, something like that. Not a lot of people worked on Hi-Fi Rush. That was a smaller team. Both those being Xbox as well. Um, but there's not a lot of space for there to be a failure. So these game companies, and for that matter, movies, there's been a discussion in the movie industry as well of why are they going to all everything's superhero, everything's anime, it's because everything costs so much to make. They cannot afford a failure. So to guarantee success, a lot of times they're going to license a already established, well liked IP and then hope that the name of that IP gets out there. Like with Suicide Squad, going back to Suicide Squad for a second. If Suicide Squad was not Warner Brothers, if it was just, if it wasn't DC Comics, if it was just a regular game, would the disappoint would it be as disappointing as it is with the DC properties? Because a lot of people think it's a very fun game, but if they had done it with new characters, new setting, nothing established, sure, it wouldn't have the same advertising power. We probably wouldn't know as much about it. But would it have been as disliked as it is with the DC property attached with the fanfare that's associated with that? I don't know. Because I did not play it. But um they are trying to do their best to guarantee the success. And obviously, success doesn't always happen. And so now we're to the point where they have to figure something out. And that's something to get the most money is to have the smallest teams. And I said I was going to get to gamers not being entirely free of blame. Insiders have been saying this. Insiders have been saying this is going to happen if we don't course correct. They've been saying that for years. But gamers are like, no, we want to get the best bang for our buck. We want the biggest games. We want the best graphics. We want it running at like hundreds of thousands of frames. Now look where we're at. You know, there's the meme that it's I want smaller games that look worse, made by people that get paid better, and I'm not kidding. Something along those lines. There's that meme out there. That's absolutely true. I absolutely agree with that. Like, I go back and play N64 games. For me, that's not a big deal. And even with this current console generation, and even with PC for the last 5 years, we haven't seen, and even probably longer than 5 years, we haven't seen that big of a difference in graphic fidelity, like increase-wise. It's mostly been on performance side, which is fine. Why don't we just focus on smaller games? I know you want to get the most bang for your buck. I know games are expensive, but would you rather just not have games? Because that's what's happening now. We just don't have games now. And then these companies, that's it for the gamers. Just a little food for thought. Back to the companies. Something that a lot of non gaming companies learned over the pandemic. The type of companies that could not do work from home. Something they learned over the pandemic the hard way is you don't get those employees back when times get good again and you can afford those employees. They don't come back. I know someone that, them and their competitor both had to close. They couldn't do work from home. They had to close. And the one, he decided to pay his employees. He had a rainy day fund, which all these companies should have. Had a rainy day fund that he paid his employees through the shutdown. And when things reopened, they went right back to work. The other guy, he didn't have that or didn't want to pay his employees, whatever the case may be, and laid them all off right before shutdown. When it was time to reopen, none of them wanted to come back, and he had a hard time finding people, and he ended up shutting down. Same thing. How many people that have been laid off out of let's see, we're now at 16 to 19,000 over the last 2 years. How many of those people are going to come back? I mean, honestly, especially with all the other stuff going on, with everything that happened at Blizzard, with everything that happened at Riot. There's a studio that's being reported as having created a bad workplace environment through all of these reports on top of that. How many are coming back? I don't know that any of them come back. So it's just bad all around. Anyway, I'm running a little low on time, so we're going to go to some happier news. Some more big news that happened since our last episode. Pokemon Presents. Not a lot came out of it. The two big ones that came out of it is they are doing a Pokemon trading card game, mobile game called Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. You get two free digital packs. I should say digital, um, a day. And you can engage in quick battles, using the Pokemon game mechanics, and you can collect the cards and all that. Um, that's cool. It's a nice option for people that can't afford the physical cards, or, uh, and a bunch of fun stuff like that. I think it's a great idea. I'm happy for that. And then Pokemon Legends ZA is was announced. It's coming out 2025. We are not getting a Pokemon game this year at all, which is very interesting, and is set entirely within Lumio City, which is also interesting that it's happening all within a city. And it seems more future based than the past based uh, Legends Arceus, which is also very interesting. I never played Gen 6, so that'll be an interesting experience for me. That Gen 6 is the one generation I did not play at all. Outside of Gen 9, I've not touched Gen 9 yet either. Um, I'd like to, but time. And then finally, the happiest news of all. Stardew Valley's 1.6 update hits in March. And this was followed up. I don't know if it's in this story. 30 million copies have been sold across all platforms. And this is by Tom Ivan at VGC. So the 30 million copies, that's impressive. Let me tell you how many copies are in this particular household. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 copies in this household of Stardew Valley. Me and my wife each have a version on both our phone and our PC. We have a version on the Xbox, we have a version on the Switch, and then Gavin has a version on his PS4. And in order to play multiplayer with him, I thought about buying it on my PS5. So, a lot of versions in this house of that game. So we are definitely a contributing factor. But it's going to come out March 19th, which is very exciting for me because I go on vacation just a few days after that. So I will be able to play. Maybe I stream Stardew Valley with my wife. Who knows? It was originally 1.6 was originally just going to be to allow modders easier time to mod the game, because he wants to move on from Stardew and continue other projects like the Haunted Chocolatier that he announced, that I'm very excited to also play. But he decided to add more stuff to it. He got into it and he's like, I want to add more. So there's a lot. There's plenty of videos online about how much stuff he's adding, but there's a lot, and I'm very excited about it. So yeah, that's exciting. I am recording this on lunch, so that's all the time I have now. I've got to head back to work. Um, so let me go ahead and close out. No. If you liked, or even if you didn't like this podcast, be sure to do all of the things, like hitting the like button and hitting the subscribe button and ringing that bell on the XofPlays on YouTube, or giving a high rating on whatever podcast service you use. I think I'm going to be switching podcast distributors. We're going to see how that works. It won't affect you. It's just going to be on our back end. And I brought it out. I brought it up before, but on patreon.com/thebriefing room, you can financially support the show and get cool rewards as well. And I am planning on changing up Patreon a little bit as far as on your end, what you pay and everything. Still figuring that out. But that'll come after I move everything over to the new podcast service, provider. And then, but you can financially support the show now. And we still have cool stuff on there. I did a whole discussion about why I love Persona 3 Reload. We went through a bunch of my high school YouTube videos and did not director, but creator commentary on those. And then every week for our post show, we talk about what we've been playing. So if you want to hear about that, you can check that out. And that's all from us. Be sure to take care.